Um, Hi, Gail. Morning.
Ashley, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good morning,
Uh,
Slee. Good morning, team.
hi, hi,
This is
hi,
Anita.
hi, V. Hi, Susanita. Um, okay. V, I don't know how many more people we're expecting. There are 13 of us on the line. Are we good to proceed, or there are still quite a few more people that should be on the line?
I
Do you want to wait a minute or two, Ashley?
Perhaps.
We can do so.
V? Okay,
Yes, we can do
cool.
so. And then just
Thank
just to
you.
check in with Gail, is she comfortable with us recording the meeting?
That's fine. I just wanted to comment, Ashley, I'm not currently recording the meeting. I don't know if you
Oh,
want
it's
to, are you guys happy to record it on your side and then you can share it with your members?
Yes, V is
yes.
recording. So,
So our intern Aaron is currently recording, and then we'll be able
oh,
to
is it
upload
Aaron?
to everyone. Yes, I just
Okay,
wanted to update Gail, but thanks for that. No worries.
cool. All right.
Sorry, guys, I froze there. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. I was actually
Yes,
about
we
to ask
can.
Lee to text you, but yeah, we can hear you.
This is not a good sign if my Wi-Fi is dropping. Um, okay, so you are recording your side and that you can then share that with your members. Is that what we've agreed?
Definitely,
Yes,
definitely.
that's what we'll
Yes.
do.
Okay.
Thanks, thanks.
Okay. Um,
Um, okay.
how many people did you have? Can you see the tracking? We're finding with
V,
these
how many more
meetings.
people are you expecting?
We are currently at 14, and then I think maybe in a minute or so we can proceed, and then those that will join later
Okay,
will join us. And then, yeah, if they couldn't, we'll
cool.
send in the recording.
Yeah.
We are
Um, the only the only thing is because I'm the host computer, I sometimes get a bit distracted and don't admit people who arrive late because I don't see the thing come
Hmm.
on, but I'll try and manage both sides.
Gail, your line is bad again.
Is it?
think on our side we can hear. Slee, you are frozen actually. I'm not sure what's happening, but then Gail, I can see you
I'm I,
properly.
okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so this time it's sleep.
Yes. So sorry, Slee.
Um, okay, I was about to start desperately looking for a different internet to be on, but I'm going to remain on the one I'm on, and then I'm going to lose all my temper if I cut off again with our service provider offices. Um, there's Slee is there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
there. See, are you back?
my wife, yes, my Wi-Fi had dropped as well. But I think, yeah, guys, let's let's proceed. Good morning, colleagues, and thank you very much for making it time to join us this morning. And welcome to everyone, and a special welcome to Gail, who is the executive director of the Advertising Regulatory Board, which is one of our partner organizations. And ARB is having a round of conversations with member organizations. And today is our turn as AIP. So I think also in light of connection issues, I don't want to take up too much time. Welcome, Gail, and I will hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lee, and thank you very much, all of you, for joining me. And I know that everyone has difficult and busy calendars, and it's really hard to make time for a thing like this. So I'm going to try and be not take up too much of your morning, and get to the point quickly, and share with you what I want to share. Like Lee said, we are having these conversations with all of our members. Obviously, this conversation is slightly different depending on the nature of the member, but I think it's also important that you all see my face get to know a little bit about the Advertising Regulatory Board. You came on as an organization and we were very excited about it, but we haven't done anything where it's kind of all of you have got the chance to come and hear what we're about. So I'm excited to share this with you. Now let's just check that I am up to the business of sharing it with you. Okay. Um, can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. Now I have the challenge that I need to not look at my camera. Okay. So please also, if you're looking at my face as well, excuse me looking to the side. I'm looking at my other screen so that I see when people come in. And I am here to talk about what membership of the Advertising Regulatory Board means to you as a member of the AIP. And I need to then be on that screen. Okay. So the first thing to understand is we are the industry self-regulator of the content of advertising. There are two important things in that sentence. First thing is that we are a self-regulator. We're not part of government. We're not funded by government, unfortunately. We're not ruled by government. The only place where there is a little bit of statutory authority for us is that in the Electronic Communications Act, broadcasters are bound to follow our decisions. But other than that, it's a self-regulator. So we work through a membership model, which you are a big part of that membership model. And we regulate the content of advertising. We do not regulate the placement of advertising. Don't phone me and ask me how far a billboard can be from the edge of the road. I have got no idea. We don't regulate disputes. The advertiser paid you 10,000 Rand to place the ad in your paper and you placed it on the wrong page and now they want to have a fight with you about that. We don't regulate that. We look at the content of advertising and we look at it in terms of the code of advertising practice, which is available on our website and about which I think I will be saying a little bit more. And then the industry aspect of that sentence is that we're made up of members of the industry, and I'm going to get to that more, but we work for you. We work for the industry. While sometimes we tell some members of the industry, the advertisers, what to do, essentially we are a servant of the industry. The next question that comes up is why is self-regulation important? Why do we bother to have this organization at all? And the first thing that I always ask when I'm talking about this is when the government told us that load shedding would end, did any of us actually believe them? And now, if you were in a live room with me, I would make you put up your hands and tell me if any of you believed that load shedding would actually end. And I had one the other day where someone did put up their hands, and I was a bit thrown by it, like, to know anybody believed the government when they said that load shedding would end. Because the fact of the matter is, most of us didn't believe them. It looked for a little while like we were wrong and we should have believed them, but now it seems to be creeping back. Why didn't we believe them? We didn't believe them because we don't trust government as a trusted communication space. When government tells us something, we don't believe what they say because experience has shown us that they're not telling the truth. I'm just going to ask everyone to mute, please. Um, Experience has shown us that they're not telling the truth. Now, what we don't want is that when advertisers make a claim, it lands like government making a claim, and people just don't believe it because they don't trust the advertising space. We want advertising to be a trusted space. We want consumers to be believing what they see in advertising. And how is that going to happen? That is going to happen by consumers knowing that there is something they can do if somebody lies to them in the advertising space, that there's somewhere they can go, and that somewhere they can go is an efficient somewhere and a good somewhere and a somewhere that will pull advertising if they agree with the complainant. And that's why we have to have a regulator that looks at advertising. We don't want it to be government because we know that government is slow and we know that government tends to have really, really strong sanctions where they're going to be fining people for for not doing things. And we don't want that for advertisers. We want something that we can just pull advertising that is harming consumers and that is harming the advertising space because consumers are not believing it. For you guys, it is absolutely essential because you are dependent on people placing advertising in your publications. You are dependent on advertisers believing that that their advertising works. And advertisers will only believe their advertising works if consumers are believing and acting on advertising. So this is why we have rules about advertising, and this is why we have someone who can apply those rules. The next question is why make it self-regulation? Why don't we just go, government can do this? Okay, well, first of all, we already know what the government communication space is like and how consumers feel about that because we all feel the same way about it. The other thing is, complaints about advertising need to be handled fast. We all know advertising. People don't book a campaign with you for 4 years. They book it for a few months at best, if you're lucky. If it's a great contract, they book it for a few months. So we want a decision that comes out fast. We want it to be cheap. We want that consumers can complain for free, that they don't have to pay because it's not fair for consumers to have to pay to protect themselves. And we want that for companies complaining against another company, it's cheaper than going to court. We also want decision making. Every time I do this presentation, I promise myself straight afterwards I will fix it. Keeps decision making in rules of industry. Well, that makes absolutely no sense. It keeps decision making in the hands of the industry. And that's decision making about the rules. Somebody's not muted. It's decision making about the rules and it's decision making when we get a complaint. So our appeal bodies have got space for representatives from the industry to be on those appeal bodies. Slee sits on our board. So she is part of the decision making about the future of the ARB and what the ARB does and the financials of the ARB. But if you want to have members who are on the decision making bodies, and I'm going to talk to you about them in a minute, then that is something that could happen. It's based on the international code. So this isn't something we only do in South Africa. This is how decision making about advertising content works all over the world. I think I've got a map for you coming up. And we are dynamic to change. When we see something that needs action, we're not like government bound by going through a long, tedious process of changing rules. We can do it really quickly and efficiently. Okay, get back to the thing. That's why your industry organization became a member of the ARB, because a recognition of this need to have a self-regulator and the advantages of self-regulation. Just to give you an idea of who the other members are, the three founding members of the Advertising Regulatory Board were the ACA, who are the traditional agencies, the IAB, who are digital agencies and platforms, and MASA, who are the marketers. The NAB is a creature of its own because it is the one member that is bound by being a member, as well as being bound by the Electronic Communications Act. And then we have the other members, including yourselves there, that represent different sectors of the advertising industry. And we are hoping that very soon the Consumer Goods and Services Association is going to be on that list as well. So you can see you joined a healthy ecosystem. Each of those members has a whole lot of members of their own who are bound by our code and bound by our decision. And this is how it works all over the world. You can see the big exceptions to where we have self-regulation of advertising are the rest of Africa. We work really hard to try and assist other African countries in coming on board, establishing self-regulators. They try occasionally. The reality is they are, on the whole, too frightened of their governments to step in and have a self-regulatory organization. And whenever I present this slide, uh, it reminds me that whatever problems our government might have, our freedom of speech is extraordinary, and our government is encouraging of us self-regulating rather than being against us self-regulating. And I think that that's a very valuable thing to have. But we hope that the rest of Africa will slowly learn the advantages of self-regulation. I want to quickly talk to you about the ARB's process because I want you to understand how we work as a member. The first really important thing is we only act when we get a complaint. So when you see something and you say, why has the ARB allowed this ad to run? We haven't allowed it to run. We have to get a complaint before we can do anything about an ad. And that's where active consumers come in, which is something I will be talking about at the end of this presentation. So we get a complaint. The complaint might be from a consumer, it might be from a competitor of the company advertising. If it's from a competitor, they have to pay to lodge the complaint. If it's from a consumer, we deal with it for free. Okay. We then assess that complaint. Only 25% of our complaints are formally investigated. Why? It might be because we have no jurisdiction, because it's not a complaint that is about the content of advertising. It might be about the content of a program. We've got a very crazy one at the moment who thinks that Lunch Bar stole his documentary. That's not about the content of advertising. That's an intellectual property issue that we're going to have to tell him to go to his lawyer. It might be that we've asked the complainant for more information and they haven't given us that information. There's a certain amount of information we need before we investigate a complaint. And then finally, people are mad. People are stark, raving crazy. The complaints that we get, you cannot even believe that people are this mad. Complaints about one of my favorite ones is a woman who she was complaining about a poster on a shelf, and the poster said two for the price of one. And she said it was hard to tell because it was on the shelf which product it was talking about, which one is two for the price of one. She said when she put her glasses on, she could see that on the poster it told her which product, but she didn't think it was fair that she had to put her glasses on. And we then have to write back and go, no, you have to put your glasses on. Like you can't expect the ad to cater for your particular brand of short-sightedness. And I say this as a person who wears glasses to see far and to read. You've got to put your glasses on, lady. So we get a lot of really mad complaints. So we assess them, and the 25% that we formally investigate, we then ask for a response from the advertiser. We give them 5 days. Remember, I said it has to be fast. Advertising cannot take 4 months to make a decision because then the campaign's over. We have to be quick about making this decision. So we ask for a response. Sometimes when we get that response, the advertiser will give us an undertaking that they will pull the ad on their own. And then we can close the file because remember, all we do is we pull advertising. We don't fine people, we don't get people fired, we don't have people punished. All we do is we pull the advertising because we are here to protect the consumer. So if the advertiser tells us that they're pulling it anyway, that's great for us, that solves the problem. Where do you come in that particular thing? If you are involved in the complaint, if you have seen the complaint, we might have come to you and asked for an ad or something like that. You might say to us, listen, we're not going to publish that ad in our publication again. We're going to be dealing with the advertiser. It's more about the advertiser than the publication, but just so you know, that is a piece of information you might want to give us if the situation arises. And then we proceed to decision. And I think that's also very important. We ask the advertiser for a response on that advertising. We don't ask the media. We recognize you are just the carrier of the advertising. But we ask the advertiser to respond to that, and then we make a decision. The first decisions are made by the directorate. The directorate makes decisions on the paper. It is the full-time staff and our independent contractors who make that decision, and it is signed off by me. So if you read about a decision that you think is really, really stupid, I'm probably the person you want to picture when you think it's really, really stupid. Sorry, I'm just letting someone in. We work in a very litigious environment. The chances of us being taken to court are pretty good. Some of you might know we've been through a massive court thing that landed us in the Constitutional Court. We're always aware of that. So at each level, we do have a legally qualified person signing off. I'm an attorney. I have a master's degree in law. Hopefully, it's enough that I keep us out of most of the trouble we could be in. Not all of it, but most of it. If you're not happy with the directorate decision, then you can appeal. You can appeal to the Advertising Appeals Committee. And if you're still not happy, you can appeal to the final appeal committee. I'm using you loosely here. You guys aren't marketers. You're unlikely to get involved with us at this level. But just so you know, there are, and these are independent committees from the directorate and often come to different conclusions from the directorate. Not entire, I don't know if I have a separate file now, I can never remember a separate slide. But just in case I don't, to talk about this. Actually, I think I do. Let me let's see if it's one. Okay, yeah. Um, as a member, AIP has a right to representatives in the different decision-making bodies of the ARB. On the board, you have one seat, and Slee takes that seat at the moment, and is a very prompt and involved member. So thank you, Slee. Um, you then have the possibility, and at the moment, you guys have not taken this up. You can have two representatives sitting on the Advertising Appeals Committee, and you can have one representative sitting on the Final Appeals Committee. If that is something, and okay, now I need to really emphasize my next point. We do not pay you for this. You give of your time and it's a present to us, and we will never pay you for this. It will always be a present to us. But if this is something you would like to be involved in, if you think making decisions about advertising is something really interesting and you would like to have your voice heard in those rooms, then chat to Kate and say you would like for the AIP to be taking it up and you putting your hand up to be considered as a seat on those committees, and that is something that is open to you. The Advertising Appeals Committee is the slightly more onerous task. It sits once a month, and at the moment we're sitting pretty regularly once a month. We're actually hearing 2 matters a month at the moment. It means giving up that morning of the appeal committee and probably an hour or two the day before to read the papers, possibly half an hour to read the decision after. So it's a time commitment, but it's there. If you do put up your hand and we do go ahead with that, I would have a meeting with you to explain how it works in more detail. So there are 2 seats there. And then the final appeal committee, that's less of a commitment in that, oh, I'm so not seeing people coming in. It's less of a commitment in that it doesn't sit so regularly at the moment. That could go up. It hasn't sat for about a year at the moment. It is more of a commitment in that it's much more formal. It's chaired by a retired judge. The Advertising Appeals Committee is chaired by an advocate, a senior advocate. The Final Appeal Committee, it's quite a formal thing, and they have lawyers presenting, and it can take much longer. We limit their time at the Advertising Appeals Committee. We don't limit their time at the Final Appeals Committee. And that is one chair that is available for members. Okay. The next thing is, how should you be working with the Advertising Regulatory Board? What does it mean for you? And guys, I am going to allow time for any questions. So if you have a question, keep it in your mind and I'll be opening up to any questions about anything to do with the Advertising Regulatory Board. But how do you work with the Advertising Regulatory Board? You are bound by Advertising Regulatory Board decisions as a member. What this means for you guys is if that we say an advert cannot be published, you cannot publish it. That is your commitment to us as members. And it's really, really important. I know that sometimes that means you lose the revenue from that ad, but this is how self-regulation works. And as a media member, you are more important than the marketing members in the enforcement process. And without enforcement, we do not work. You are absolutely vital to us in enforcing those decisions, in making sure that self-regulation works. So I don't know how it works for you guys. It's different in every organization. Kate receives an email every week of rulings that we think might be relevant to you. And hopefully that's being shared with you. I would strongly encourage you to sign up for our newsletter so that you see our rulings as well. If we've ruled against a claim on a television ad and it's against the particular claim, that also can't appear in print media, it can't appear anywhere. So our ruling applies to wherever a claim appears in any media. We know We get less complaints about print media. That might change based on something I'm going to ask you to do. But we get less complaints about newspapers in particular. Um, but it is still relevant to you, and it is still a powerful part of our enforcement and our power as a self-regulator, that you guys are members and that you are bound by our decisions. Um, Okay, this one doesn't really apply to you, but if you advertise, you cannot use non-membership or lack of jurisdiction as a defense. That's more for the marketing members. I'm here for you. You have to help us where you can by enforcing decisions against other members. And this burden falls heavily on media and retail members like you, but everyone can do their part. And then you help us watch the industry. You help us pick up what are issues that we should be considering. We should maybe be looking at having more rules for problems that you are struggling with, and maybe something that you want to lodge a complaint because you know that your industry better than we do. You know what complaints there are that are particularly relevant to you, and you might want to lodge a complaint as an industry. Um, if there's something that you're flagging as a problem that you don't know how to deal with, you can ask me about it. If it's a problem that it's something you don't think we've dealt with, you can ask Lee to bring it up at board level or to bring it up directly with me, or you can bring it up directly with me and ask me what we're doing about it. But being an active member is a really, really important part of making sure that self-enforcement works. We will help you lobby the government if you have any situation where government is stepping on your toes and you want us to help lobby the government. Please don't rely on us to know it's going on by ourselves. We might not. I've just got a email from another member saying, have you made submissions on the blah, blah, blah bill? I don't even know about the blah, 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 blah bill. You've got to let us know that it's happening, and we will help you lobby government. We're happy to train your staff. We're happy to speak at your events. We're happy to speak at your conferences. I do a really, really fun presentation where we show lots of ads and we have people vote on the ads and they see what it's like to be part of the decision-making body and that it's not as easy as it looks. And then the big thing that I want to ask you, so the first big thing I'm asking you for is that enforcement. When a decision comes through for us where we need your help enforcing, please make sure you're aware of the decision, that you subscribe to our newsletter, that Kate's not sending decisions through to you, that you ask her. I can say that because she's not in the room, that you ask her to start sending decisions through to you. Or it might be that I come to you directly and I go, listen, it's appearing in your newspaper and they haven't pulled it from your newspaper. Please pull it. So please there. And then the second thing is we are about to launch an awareness campaign. We are in the final processes of approving the timelines, approving the content. And there will be a newspaper style execution that we will be asking all of you to place for free in your publications, and we will be sharing that with you, and no doubt Kate will be sharing that with you, and we would really ask you, and I think particularly a lot of you guys, you community publishers, I am not interested in the harm that is being done to the educated, wealthy housewife who has got time on her hands and is complaining because she's got nothing better to do. I am interested in the real harm that is being done to the most vulnerable members of our society, the less educated people, the less literate people, the people who only have a little bit of money and need to spread that money properly without being misled by advertisers. Those are the people I'm really interested in protecting. And you guys have a unique voice to those people. And when it comes to our consumer awareness, I feel that the awareness that you are going to be able to generate is in many ways going to be the most valuable awareness because it's community-based awareness. It's people who are probably not aware of what the Advertising Regulatory Board does, and it's people who are most in need of protection from misleading ads. So this is one that I really feel very strongly, and I hope that you will assist us with. And then there are my details. And before I stop sharing, I would ask you, please write down our website so that you can go onto the website and subscribe to our newsletter so that you get all the information about the rulings, about warnings we put out, about workshops that we might have, about anything that we're offering. I would ask you to follow us on LinkedIn if you are a LinkedIn kind of person. We share all the things there. And follow the Advertising Regulatory Board, not me personally. I mean, you're welcome to follow me personally as well, but the Advertising Regulatory Board is where you're going to get all the information. I get a bit confused on LinkedIn, and sometimes I share, sometimes I don't. Um, and then write down my email address. So if you ever have a query, you can email me. If I have not got back to you in 2 days, nag me. I'm very efficient unless I'm completely inefficient. So if I haven't got back to you in 2 days, it means it slipped through my cracks. I've forgotten about it for some reason. I read your email in the car and promised myself I'd respond as soon as I walked into the office, and then promptly forgot that I'd ever heard from you. So if you haven't heard in 2 days, please do feel free to nag me. I will not get upset. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen. And I'm going to open to any questions you have. And I think the best way to manage it is just turn on your camera, turn on your voice, and ask the question. Slee knows that I'm crazy about an informal process.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gail. That was lovely and short, I think, but still comprehensive enough. So I don't know, colleagues, if I have questions. Advertising is quite an important topic for us, not so much from the regulatory point of view. So yeah.
If the question is how to get more of it, I'm afraid I don't know
Hmm.
the answer.
There will be that question, Gail. But I think on a serious note, yes, I'm sure colleagues, will be open to, because we are about prioritizing our audiences as well. So anything that helps our audiences. But I don't know, Gail. I think that though, as much as yes, you obviously can't tell, ad agencies how to spend, where to spend, and it's not ARB's mandate. But I think that colleagues would probably also appreciate some kind of, I don't know, an opportunity where if ARB is able to come to member organizations like this and say, okay, can you assist us with this campaign? Perhaps also some of the other ARB members who are aid agencies could also at some point engage with AIP and just to,
That's a nice
to
idea.
see. Yeah,
See, let's take that idea
yeah.
offline, and so what I could maybe do is set you up to talk to. So the agencies, I have to tell you, are very interesting because so I'm offering this workshop to everybody. We've so far done the Vape Products Association, we did it as part of their AGM, so very, very well attended. We did the Insurance Association. You wouldn't think that they really care about anything except making money. Very well attended. 125 people as well, like you, from different insurance companies listening to what their obligation is as a member. Then we have the agency one a few days ago. Not a single agency came. Not one. I don't know if their communication went very, very wrong and they didn't actually send out the invitation. That's what I want to believe. We
Yeah.
are now hooking it onto another subject. We're hooking it onto a talk about AI and sneaking in this is what the ARB is about in case that was the issue. But those agencies are hard to speak to. But I think
Mm.
let's look, what I'm
Mm.
even thinking, Steve, we're now having a conversation we shouldn't be having in this forum. Maybe there's a thing for all the members to do, like to tell each other what they're about and how they could help
Yes,
each other.
yes.
That might be something. Let's look at
Yeah.
that as an idea. Does
Okay.
anyone have any specific questions? Not like Slee giving me new ideas and putting industry challenges before me. Anton.
All right. Um, two questions. I tried to, while you were speaking, look at your guidelines and the rules. But I'm sort of talking about 10, 20 years being involved in sort of self-regulation. Two of the main problems that we found is that we, from our side, tried to screen advertising. We would say, no, okay, this is not acceptable. To give you an example, an old sort of right mind, the VAT inclusive, exclusive. It used to be in the old sort of rules that it said no, but that's actually part of the consumer law as well. But we get them quite often, especially in the motor vehicle industry, where people come and they give you the price and then very small, like, oh, it's VAT exclusive. And we tell them no, you can't sort of accept that. You have to have a VAT inclusive price. And then they say no, they refuse. They spoke to their whatever, and that's the way they wanted. We're not allowed to change it. And so we can't accept it. So we do not accept it. We lose that advertising just to find it appear in the opposition paper, which they don't really care. And nothing happens about that. We obviously don't want to pick a fight with the opposition. They're part of the conglomerate, so we just let it go. We lose that advertising. The other sort of similar one is in the case of, and I see there's some reference in your code about the sort of superstition and the, mama whatever promises you eternal health and wealth and whatever. We don't accept those advertising, because we basically say, okay, you're making claims that are unsubstantiated. You cannot, your product. Still, I mean, you open up some of the sort of many newspapers, you'll find pages filled with these things. So I just think it's something that's not really fair towards the people, especially the small ones, trying to sort of, protect the readers, where the others do as they want. And again, you could say, well, we should then complain against them. It's not that easy. You're sitting and I'm not going to pick a fight with them. I'll let it go. But anyway, those are just two of the quick questions. Thanks.
So those are actually two very good issues. Thank you for raising them, especially the second one, which I actually should have had a slide to speak to you guys about. So the first one, it is in our code. It's clause 19.4 of section 2 of our code, makes reference to the VAT Act, and it references sections 64 and 65 of the VAT Act. And the rule is that you have to either have the VAT inclusive price or a breakdown. VAT exclusive plus VAT equals VAT inclusive. So you are quite right that you should not be accepting VAT exclusive pricing. And I hear your frustration that some people are going to accept it. And I also understand why you can't complain. All I can say is that maybe when we have our awareness campaign, you will at least make consumers aware where they can complain about the content of advertising. Obviously the VAT issue is not one that we specifically target in our campaign, but maybe there'll be more awareness. We do every now and then get complaints about it. Maybe what you could do is run an article about it. That's another thing I wanted to say to you guys. If you are ever short of stories, go onto our website, read our rulings. There's always a story in our latest ruling, always. So, maybe that's a way to raise awareness about it, do a story about that inclusive advertising and give our contact details for people to complain. The superstition one is a really, really difficult one. So we deal with the superstition one in clause 14 of section 3. And this is one that all of you need to be aware of. We at the time we dealt with the press council in drafting this and a little bit with our other medias, but the press council in particular. And we recognize, so I think, Anton, what you're doing is the correct thing, ethically. I think that having ads that say, find your lost lover or grow your penis or whatever the hell they say, you shouldn't have them. I do not personally believe that they are ever true. But that's my belief system. And I recognize that maybe other people have a different belief system, firstly. And I also recognize that for you guys, if you lose that advertising, it often could be the difference between keeping your doors open and closing your doors. So we reach this kind of compromise. And if you're not doing this, please start doing this. The compromise is in clause 14 of section 3. And it has it basically says if you must have those ads, if you are going to make the decision that you are going to, so it says advertisements for products or treatments with unproven supernatural properties, including those for achieving health, wealth, or happiness, should only appear in media where the following disclaimer clearly appears legibly and boldly. The claims made on this page, okay, that's the one for you. So the claims made on this page have not been scientifically proven. Advertised outcomes claimed are not guaranteed. So our view is if you must run this type of advertising, make your consumer aware that these are not scientific claims and have not been proven. And then it says, in the case of print, the disclaimer will appear in a frame around either the advertisement or the page that carries the advertisement. So if you're one of those papers that has pages and pages of this stuff, then you should have a frame around it and it should say, the claims made on this page have not been scientifically proven. The advertised outcomes claimed are not guaranteed. And if you have a multilingual readership, you should be saying it in multi-languages. Because the fact of the matter is that it's a massive problem. People are spending a lot of money on things that you and I know are not going to happen. You know, so please be aware of that. I think we have it. I think we have shared it with you specifically at some point, but it's something that I can't emphasize enough, and I'm not seeing it happen. I have to be honest, but unfortunately, consumers again aren't aware of the rule, so they're not raising it, and also probably the consumers who turn to those pages are looking for those services, so they don't feel angry that it's not scientifically proven. So I think. Yeah, I think that's a really, really important one. Thanks for raising it, Anton. And maybe what I must do is send through just a thing to Kate to share with all members, just reminding everyone about that. Anyone else have any issues you want to raise, talk about, ask? I'm just writing on my to-do list to send out to Kate. Anton.
Quietly me. And are you also in a way proactive in terms of saying, okay, I mean, like to use an example, for like a few months ago, especially on like radio stations, the Afrikaans radio stations, and even on television, you had the Kleuterzone, which turned out to be a Ponzi. Okay, now when I first heard those adverts, I was like, wait, this is not realistic claims, and then MoneyWeb started writing about it, but still the advertising, it was continuing. I know it's quite a difficult one to say, but do you actually monitor that? And do you say, okay, well, maybe we should act, or we should be proactive?
So we don't have the resources to monitor, because if you monitor, you have to monitor fairly. You can't just randomly monitor. You have to be monitoring. It can't be that the billboard on my drive to work becomes the most vulnerable billboard in the whole of South Africa, because I see it every day. And we don't have the resources to do fair monitoring. So we have to get a complaint. However, so the Kleuterzone one, we never got a complaint before the news broke. And obviously they're not advertising anymore because they're hiding in Thailand or whatever it is they're up to. However, coming out of that, and coming out of a few other, there was also an egg hatching scam. I don't know if any of you came across that, where people were asked to invest in eggs, and then you'd get the money from selling the chickens that hatched out of the eggs. And what they'd do is you'd invest 100 Rand and you'd get like 1,000 Rand, and you'd be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then you'd invest your life savings. And we are working very closely with the Financial Services Control Board to look at how we can strengthen the code so that we bring together all the laws about financial advertising, but we also broaden it so that we protect consumers better. And so that between us and the Financial Services Control Board, we hopefully can look after consumers in a better way. So we are proactive around issues. So when you pick up an issue, please bring it to our attention. So if you pick up a new type of scam or something like that, maybe all we'll be able to do is issue a scam alert to our members. Maybe we'll be able to do more. But bring issues to us that we could make rules around if you feel our rules are lacking. Our misleading clause covers just about everything under the sun. But sometimes it's better to have more specific. So, for example, we are now working towards that any type of financial scheme should have a line saying returns are not guaranteed, something like that. This is you may lose money, returns are not guaranteed, something like that. We're working towards that type of thing. We did it with the cryptocurrency industry. You'll see there's a crypto clause, it's clause 17 of section 3, where we picked up that there was a problem and we worked with the industry to make a clause for them.
Just a follow-up, thanks for that. The FSCB example that you mentioned, that's quite interesting because they also issue warnings, but that very seldom comes through to small publishers like us. Would it be possible for the ARB to actually, once that such a warning is being issued, to also send it through? And the FSCB is probably only one organization. I think there are many others that would also issue, because I think it's important for us to protect the consumers as well, but we wouldn't really know about these things.
So I also, they don't send them to me, and it's a very good point. I put that on my to-do list now. They don't send them to me either. What we talked about doing together is having some sort of scam portal together, where any scam we pick up with them or us or any other organization working with scams, we have somewhere that the consumer can go and kind of check a scam portal, or you guys can go and check a scam portal. However, I think that what you're saying is a good point. I'm going to ask my contact there if we can always be sent the alert, and then we will share the alert with our whole member base. Please, please, please subscribe to that newsletter, because that is the list who we would share any alert like that. But I'm going to ask the FCB to please share any alert they issue with us. And then you can obviously publish it. And I'm going to mention this to them. You can publish it in your publications, reaching so many more people. I mean, I think they would be very interested in that. They would like that very much as a service. So I think they'll be quite excited. The guy I'm dealing with at the FCB is really, really passionate about protecting consumers from scams. So the more we can do, the better. Anybody else?
Sorry,
Any
I've just
other?
typed the email address, but I actually see that it's gone to a private message instead of going to everyone of the FSCA, because you can just register, send them an email and ask them to put you on their media mailing list, and then we get the communication all the time. But I don't know why I'm not able to send it so that it appears to everyone.
So go into the two so go open chats, and then it says two, like my two currently says waiting room participants, and then you click on that arrow and you can say meeting group chat, and then it should send it to the whole meeting group.
Yeah, let me just transfer it out. But Gail, I wanted to ask, so something like the ruling that was issued by the FSCA around African Bank, they ran some campaign saying that it's not a loan, it's an investment. Yet they were selling a loan. Is that something that would have come to the ARB first? And then would you be the ones?
It didn't come to us. It didn't come to us
okay.
first. So it could have come to us, but it's obviously up to a consumer where they lodge a complaint.
Okay.
And it really would have been much better for African Bank if it had come to us, because we would have just pulled the ad. We wouldn't have fined them. And that goes to show exactly what government intervention could look like. No one wants that. There, I see Slee has successfully shared that email address with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one, and I'm hoping that raising awareness about us brings more the complaints to us. Possibly this also acted as a really good warning, and now other financial institutions will be more frightened of making claims that are not correct. And maybe the bigger stick will frighten them in a way that the ARB couldn't. I don't know.
Mm.
Valent has his hand up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. And yeah, please do share the slides because I'm definitely sure our members will ask for them. So yeah, on my side, I have like three questions, right? The first one, well, yeah, the second one will be more or less be guided by with the first one. So in terms of digital advertising, what has been the biggest challenges that you are currently facing in terms of digital advertising in SA? And then the follow-up question to that, it's regarding big platforms. In what ways, if possible, do you collaborate with platforms like Meta or Google to enforce rulings? And then with the last one, how does ARB ensure compliance in sectors where advertisers may not be signatories to its code? Those are just the three. Thanks.
You're really asking me the hard questions here.
Sorry.
Um,
Sorry.
so what the biggest issues on digital are, it's the same as any advertising platform. It's kind of a combination of issues. So we get complaints about digital much the same as we get complaints about anything. There are a lot of financial scams that are coming up on digital, but other than that, it's very similar. But the biggest challenge is your second question, which is the enforcement. Because obviously, first of all, it's a global issue because these are global companies and global issues around enforcement. So there are two things that are happening. The first is we belong to a global organization called ICAS, which is the International Coalition of Advertising Standards Authority. So all those companies that I showed you on that map all belong to ICAS. And ICAS is working at an international level with the platforms and getting better understanding of self-regulation and how can we work together, etc., etc. Locally, we have set up with Meta that we have a specific portal that when we make a ruling against an ad that appears on a Meta platform, we send it through to them and it's treated kind of more not quickly, it's given more weight than a consumer complaint, just complaining about the post on that platform. We go through to a special team who, like a regulatory team. So that's something we've managed to negotiate recently. We're trying to get it with other platforms. It's hard. We are trying to talk to the new Google country head at the moment. We had a very good relationship with the previous Google country head. Then he left, and now we're back to square one with Google. We've had a meeting with TikTok about enforcement, trying to get them to give us a portal like we have with Meta. We're waiting for them to get back to us. We're working on YouTube at the moment to try and get a better enforcement platform. So it's something we're aware of, but it's really hard. The member and then IAB has them as members, so it should be able to theoretically through IRB they are members and should be listening to us, but that doesn't always work. Non-membership is always an issue, and that's why the bigger our membership circle gets, the better the whole system gets. And the more our members are working with us, the better our whole system gets. And we have a court case. I'm going a bit off your topic now because yours was more about membership and enforcement, and I'm just membership generally. The Supreme Court of Appeal has found that we can make a decision about a non-member's advertising for the guidance of a member. So just because we don't, because it's not a member advertising and just because it's not in a member publication or on a member platform, we will still make a decision. So at the very least, we raise awareness about it. And then our teeth have varying degrees of sharpness. So Meta at the moment has actually become one of our sharpest ones. Problem with our Meta platform, we have to alert them to every single appearance of a post with the ads. So we had one recently with Melon Mobile. Melon Mobile advertises an unlimited package. I don't know if any of you have fallen into that trap. It is not an unlimited package. It is a very limited package. So we ruled against them. But they create about 20 Facebook ads a day. And I cannot hire someone full time to let Meta know about every Melon Mobile ad. So every now and then we report a few, but we limited there. So that's a problem with our Meta thing, and they don't have the wherewithal to be monitoring everything that everyone posts either. So that's an issue. But yeah, we're working on it. The answer is we're aware of it, we're working on it, we're trying very hard. It's a challenge for self-regulation all over the world.
Sure. No, thank you very much. Truly appreciate it.
Anyone else? I'm just going to quickly share my screen once more to make sure that you've got those contact details. Make sure you've got my email, make sure you've got our website address. The codes are there, the decisions are there, everything you might need should be there. And if it's not there, you can email me and I will assist. Okay. That's me, Slee.
Thank you so much, Gail. I think that went
Firstly,
well. Yes, sorry. Oh, sorry, Q. Yes, please go ahead.
yes, how can we get the artwork if we want to help Gail with advertising on our platforms, on our websites and stuff like that?
Thank you for asking that. We will be sending it through as soon as it's ready, and we will be asking, and I'm really glad that there's that enthusiasm, but we will be sending it through to Kate as soon as it's ready and asking her to share it with all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Q. All right. If there's no one else, thank you very much, Gail.
Thank you, Slee.
Yeah, we'll chat soon. Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank
Have a
you,
good day,
Gail.
guys.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you,
Thanks.
colleagues. Thanks,
Thank
Lee.
you.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
colleagues.